Okay, let's open up a package I got yesterday. Got a 1905 Lewis and Clark exposition from Portland, Oregon. And this is clearly 1905, but when somebody wrote it up there, it kind of looks like 1985, which is the date that the seller put on it. Now, a 1985 Lewis and Clark Expo medal compared to a 1905 Lewis and Clark Expo medal is quite a big difference. So it looks like I received two identical or very similar ones. This one has a hole through the top. This other one perhaps was made with holes at the top or rings at the top so that it could be put on a necklace or something. And then here's another one from the same Expo, 1905, and that could be a watch fob, but very collectible souvenirs from this area. The Lewis and Clark Centennial Exposition, commonly also known as the Lewis and Clark Exposition, and officially known as the Lewis and Clark Centennial and American Pacific Exposition and Oriental Fair, was a worldwide exposition held in Portland, Oregon in 1905 to celebrate the centennial of the Lewis and Clark expedition through the Louisiana Purchase to the Pacific Ocean. While not officially considered a World's Fair by the Bureau of International Expositions, it is often informally described as such. The exposition attracted both exhibits and visitors from around the world. During the fair's 4-month run, it attracted over 1.6 million visitors. Portland grew from 161,000 to 270,000 residents between 1905 and 1910, a spurt that has been attributed to the exposition. The title seemed unnecessarily grandiose to some. However, the Oriental Fair portion of the title was added largely to take advantage of a tax shelter providing for trade with the Far East. The absurdity of the full title caused it to usually simply be called the Lewis and Clark Centennial Exposition. Although the true motivation for the fair came from an economic and business standpoint, it was still crucial to have a theme for publicity and decor. The theme for the Portland Fair came from the advice of the Oregon Historical Society. They suggested that the centennial anniversary of the Lewis and Clark expedition's stay in Oregon would be a perfect event to commemorate. As the directors wanted to include their dreams of economic growth as well, they combined the two ideas into a title that summed up the dual goals of historic commemoration and regional boosterism. the Lewis and Clark Centennial and American Pacific Exposition and Oriental Fair. In addition, a motto was decided on to focus the festivities and booster publicity. Westward, the course of empire takes its way. Once a theme was set, the men began securing exhibits and getting support for their investments. Getting government backing was crucial due to the personal investments already made. The Ladd and Tilton Bank invested $20,000, the Northern Pacific Railroad another $20,000, and brewer Henry Weinhardt contributed $10,000. Many of the substantial investments were made from hotels, restaurants, streetcar companies, and retailers, all groups with much to gain from the success of the fair and the economic prosperity it could provide. In addition, approximately 3,000 average citizens purchased stock certificates, both as investment opportunities and to support what they viewed as a worthwhile gesture. These individual investments eventually paid off greatly, as I'll talk about later. After considering a number of locations on both sides of the Willamette River, which runs north and south through the city, a location in northwest Portland, around what was called Guild Lake, was chosen. Numerous individuals were involved in the design and construction of the fairgrounds and buildings. The Olmsted Brothers design firm was hired to develop a plan for the grounds for $5,000. The plan designed by John Charles Olmsted took advantage of the scenic views available from the site, including Mount St. Helens and the river. Olmsted also developed a plan for Portland's park system during the same visit. The majority of the buildings were in the style of the Spanish Renaissance and decorated with architectural flourishes such as domes, cupolas, arched doorways, and red-colored roofs. The buildings, not intended to be permanent, were largely constructed of plaster over wooden frames, which resulted in rather low construction costs, an average of 79 cents per foot. The major exceptions to this was the forestry building, a log cabin which was said to be the world's largest. It was constructed of 54 long unhewn logs. The building was 206 feet long, 102 feet wide, and 72 feet high. It cost nearly $30,000. The building stood until destroyed by fire in 1964. The exposition opened on June 1st, 1905, and ran until October 15th of that year, a 4.5-month span. It included exhibitions from 21 nations and 16 states, as well as numerous branches of the federal government and private organizations. By all economic measures, the fair was a major success. Over the entire run of the fair, the box office recorded almost 1.6 million paid admissions, an average of 11,600 visitors per day. Tickets cost 50 cents for adults, a quarter for children. 40,000 visitors attended on the opening day, 50,000 attended on the 4th of July, and on the anniversary of Portland's incorporation, the daily attendance record of over 85,000 visitors was set. The vast majority, nearly 75% of visitors, were from the Pacific Northwest, with almost half being local residents. In all, 2,554,000 people visited the exposition. Unusual for such expositions, the Lewis and Clark Centennial Exposition was profitable, turning a gross profit of nearly $85,000. Capital investors received a 21% return on their investment. In addition, the impact on the local economy was significant. It is estimated 1 million out-of-town guests came to Portland, resulting in millions of dollars, in 1905 dollars, added to the economy. In addition, construction of the fairgrounds provided 1,000 construction jobs. While very little of the Lewis and Clark Centennial Exposition remains today, the vast majority of the structures were designed to be temporary and were torn down the following year, in 1906. A few structures were moved elsewhere and remained in use for a long time, most famously the forestry building, which was reinforced with a concrete foundation and converted into a forestry museum, which I've already mentioned, burned to the ground in August 1964. A few other buildings from the fair remain standing today, including the Fairmont Hotel, the American Inn, and the National Cash Register building, which is now the McMenamins St. John's Theater and Pub. Of course, another reminder is the small number of different so-called dollars, medals, medallions, and elongated cents produced to commemorate the fair, and in particular, the giant log forestry building. There's more to learn from the Wikipedia article, where much of this information is sourced from. Please read that if you have further interest in this remarkable fair's history. As the purpose of this channel is to try to teach the viewer potential ways to profit by flipping coins and small collectibles, I will list the 3 items shown in the unboxing segment earlier on eBay shortly, and then we'll follow up with the sales results in a subsequent video. If you enjoyed this type of content, it would help me if you clicked like, subscribed, and left a comment. Also, please follow me on Instagram at AnthonyRRMills. Thank you.